Welcome, dear listeners, to another chilling episode of The Shadow Behind You, where the whispers of the past refuse to fade into silence and the ghosts of forgotten souls claw their way back into the light of day. I am your host, the one who delves into the darkened corners of history, unearthing tales that time itself seems desperate to bury. Tonight, we venture deep into the heart of the Missouri Ozarks, a land where the hills roll like the spines of ancient beasts, cloaked in dense forests that swallow secrets whole. It's 1912, a year when the world was teetering on the brink of modernity. Yet in these remote hollows, the old ways lingered like a stubborn fog, mingling with superstitions and shadows that no electric light could dispel. Imagine, if you will, the Ozarks as they were then, a labyrinth of rugged terrain, where narrow dirt roads twisted through thickets of oak and hickory, their leaves rustling like conspiratorial murmurs. The air was thick with the scent of damp earth and wild honeysuckle, but beneath it all lurked the faint, acrid tang of something decaying, perhaps the remnants of a forgotten mine, or the unspoken sins of those who called this place home. Rivers carved through the landscape like veins, their waters cold and unyielding, carrying tales of floods and fortunes lost. In the early 20th century, the Ozarks were a place of isolation, where communities huddled in small towns like Willow Creek or Shadow Hollow. Names I've chosen to evoke the essence, though the real locations remain veiled in mystery to protect the lingering unrest. It was in such a setting that Eliza Whitlock vanished, her disappearance not just a footnote in local lore, but a wound that festered, refusing to heal. Eliza, a woman of 28, with hair the color of autumn leaves and eyes that held the depth of the Osage River, was last seen on a crisp October evening in 1912. Her husband, Jeremiah Whitlock, a stern miner with hands scarred from years of digging into the earth's reluctant bounty, claimed she had left of her own accord, perhaps seeking a better life beyond the stifling confines of their modest cabin. But the neighbors knew better. They whispered of arguments echoing through the thin walls, of bruises hidden beneath long sleeves, and of strange lights flickering in the woods behind their home on moonless nights. As the fog rolled in from the valleys, blanketing the land in an ethereal shroud, Eliza stepped out to fetch water from the spring. Or so the story goes. She never returned. Search parties combed the forests, their lanterns casting long, wavering shadows that danced like specters among the trees. Dogs bayed into the night, their howls mingling with the distant cry of the Ozark howler, that legendary beast said to roam these hills, its scream a harbinger of doom. But no trace was found. No torn dress, no footprint in the mud, no cry for help echoing back from the hollows. It was as if the earth itself had opened up and swallowed her whole, leaving behind only the echo of her name on the wind. Yet, this is no ordinary tale of loss. The mystery of Eliza Whitlock refused to die because, in the years that followed, sightings began. Travelers on lonely roads reported seeing a woman in white, her form translucent against the misty backdrop, beckoning them deeper into the woods. Farmers awoke to find their livestock unnerved, staring at empty fields where a faint silhouette lingered. And Jeremiah, he grew reclusive, his once sturdy frame wasting away, muttering about curses and bloodlines, long tainted by some ancient wrong. Was Eliza's vanishing the result of foul play, a husband's rage boiling over in the isolation of the Ozarks? Or was it something more sinister, tied to the folklore that permeates this region? Witches' spells, family curses, or perhaps the vengeful spirits of Native American tribes displaced from these lands? Tonight, we peel back the layers of this enigma, step by step, as if walking through those very forests ourselves. Feel the chill creep up your spine, the hairs on your neck stand on end, for in the Ozarks, the past is never truly past. It lurks just behind you, waiting for the moment you turn away. Stay with me, listeners, as we uncover what happened to Eliza Whitlock and why her shadow still stretches across time, refusing to let go. Let us begin by setting the stage more vividly. The Missouri Ozarks in 1912 were a world unto themselves, a patchwork of small farms and mining operations where life was hard and unforgiving. The lead and zinc mines dotted the landscape, drawing men like Jeremiah into the depths where the air was thick with dust and the constant threat of collapse. Women like Eliza tended to the homes, raising children amid the isolation, their days filled with chores that blurred into nights lit only by kerosene lamps. The communities were tight-knit, bound by church revivals and shared hardships, but beneath the surface simmered tensions. Feuds over land, whispers of infidelity, and the ever-present fear of the unknown. Eliza was born into the Harlan family, a clan with roots tracing back to the early settlers who braved the wilderness in the 1800s. Her marriage to Jeremiah in 1905 was seen as a union of convenience, merging two families with adjacent properties. But from the start, there were omens. On their wedding day, a storm rolled in unexpectedly, lightning cracking the sky, as if the heavens themselves disapproved. Neighbors recalled Eliza's pale face, her hands trembling as she exchanged vows. Jeremiah, older by a decade, had a reputation for a quick temper, honed by years in the mines where frustration often turned to violence. As the years passed, Eliza bore two children, a boy, Samuel, and a girl, Lydia. But tragedy struck when Samuel died of fever at age 3. Some said it broke her spirit, others whispered that Jeremiah blamed her, his accusations flying like shards of glass in their cramped cabin. By 1912, the whispers grew louder. Eliza was seen less in town, her once vibrant eyes dulled by some inner torment. Friends noted her speaking of dreams, nightmares of a dark figure calling her name from the woods, promising release from her pains. And then, she was gone. The search began at dawn the next day, with men from Willow Creek arming themselves with rifles and lanterns, fearing wild animals or worse. The Ozarks were no stranger to disappearances. Tales abounded of hikers lost in the Cass Caves, their bones discovered years later. But Eliza's case felt different. No storm had raged that night, no floodwaters risen. Her bucket was found overturned by the spring, water spilling into the earth like tears. A single footprint, small, feminine, trailed off into the underbrush, then vanished as if erased by an invisible hand. Jeremiah's story shifted with each telling. First, he said she left a note, but none was found. Then, he claimed she had a lover in a neighboring town. But no one corroborated this. Suspicion fell on him like a heavy cloak, but without a body, no charges could be brought. The sheriff, a man named Harlan, no relation, declared it a runaway case, but the town knew better. In the Ozarks, justice was often meted out in shadows, and Jeremiah found his barn burned one night, a warning etched in the ashes. As months turned to years, the sightings began. A logger in 1914 swore he saw her by the river, her dress soaked, mouthing silent words. A child in 1920 claims she appeared in his bedroom, warning of danger. Even today in the 21st century, hikers report uneasy feelings in certain hollows, the air growing cold, a woman's voice whispering on the breeze. Is Eliza still out there, her spirit trapped in limbo, seeking justice? Or is this the work of collective guilt, a community's conscience manifesting in spectral form? This, listeners, is the hook that draws us in, the mystery that refused to die. As we delve deeper, prepare yourselves for a journey into the heart of darkness, where fact and folklore intertwine like vines choking an ancient tree. The shadow behind you grows longer. Do not look back just yet. Now, let us step back in time to the crisp air of 1912, where the story truly begins. Picture the Whitlock cabin, nestled in a clearing amid the rolling hills of Shannon County, Missouri. The structure was humble, a log affair with a stone chimney belching smoke from a wood stove, its roof sagging under the weight of years and neglect. Vines crept up the walls like fingers grasping for entry, and the windows, glazed with dust, stared out like wary eyes inside. The air was thick with the scent of cornbread baking and the faint metallic tang of mining tools left by the door. Eliza Whitlock rose before dawn, as she did every day, her bare feet padding across the cold wooden floor. She was a woman of quiet strength, her frame slender from hard work, her hands calloused from tending the garden and mending clothes. Her hair, tied back in a simple bun, framed a face that held a delicate beauty, though lines of worry had begun to etch themselves around her eyes. At 28, she should have been in the prime of life, but the Ozarks had a way of aging its inhabitants prematurely, the isolation and toil wearing down even the stoutest hearts. Jeremiah was already gone, off to the lead mine 5 miles away, where he labored in the dim tunnels, chipping away at the earth for meager pay. The mines were the lifeblood of the region, drawing families like the Whitlocks from farther afield in search of prosperity. But prosperity was elusive. More often, it was danger that lurked. Cave-ins, poisonous gases, and the constant dread of injury. Jeremiah returned each evening exhausted, his temper short, his words sharp as the pickaxe he wielded. That morning, Eliza tended to Lydia, her 5-year-old daughter, who played with a rag doll by the hearth. The child had her mother's eyes, wide and curious, but there was a fragility to her, a cough that lingered from the winter past. Eliza hummed an old ballad as she worked, one passed down from her grandmother, a tune about lost lovers and wandering spirits. The lyrics spoke of a woman drawn into the woods by a siren's call, never to return. Little did she know how prophetic those words would prove. As the sun climbed higher, Eliza set out for the town of Willow Creek, a cluster of buildings 3 miles down the winding path. She carried a basket of eggs to trade at the general store, Lydia skipping alongside. The road was rutted from recent rains, mud sucking at their shoes, the forest pressing in on either side. Birds called from the branches, but there was an unnatural quiet, as if the woods were holding their breath. Eliza felt a prickle at the back of her neck, a sense that eyes were upon them, but when she turned, only shadows danced. In town, she met with her friend Martha Ellis, a stout woman with a brood of children and a tongue for gossip. They stood outside the store, the scent of tobacco and spices wafting from within. "You look peaky, Eliza," Martha said, her brow furrowed. "Is Jeremiah treating you right?" Eliza forced a smile, brushing off the concern. But Martha pressed, whispering of rumors. Jeremiah seen arguing with a stranger at the mine, something about debts unpaid. Eliza shook her head, but doubt seeded in her mind. Returning home, the afternoon sun filtered through the leaves, casting dappled patterns on the ground. Lydia chatted about seeing a deer, but Eliza's thoughts were elsewhere. That evening, as Jeremiah returned, the air grew tense. Dinner was silent, broken only by the clink of forks. Later, in the dim light of the lamp, voices rose. "You're imagining things," Jeremiah growled. "No one's coming for us." Eliza's reply was soft but firm. "The dreams, Jeremiah. They're getting worse. Something's calling me." The next day brought a visitor, Eliza's brother, Thomas Harlan, a tall man with a beard like wire, who farmed land nearby. He brought news of a revival meeting at the church, hoping to lift spirits. But his real purpose was concern. He'd heard the arguments. "Sister, if you need to leave," he began, but Eliza cut him off. "This is my home," she said, though her voice wavered. As days passed, strange occurrences mounted. Tools went missing from the shed, only to reappear in odd places. Lydia spoke of a lady in the woods, watching her play. Eliza herself awoke one night to a scratching at the door, but upon opening it, found only mist swirling in. Jeremiah dismissed it as animals, but his eyes held fear. Then came the fateful evening, October 15th, 1912. The sky was a bruise of purple and grey, thunder rumbling distant. Eliza kissed Lydia goodnight, tucking her into the loft. Jeremiah sat by the fire, whittling a stick, his face shadowed. "I'll fetch water for morning," Eliza said, taking the bucket. She stepped out into the cooling air, the path to the spring familiar, lined with ferns and rocks. The spring bubbled clear, fed by underground streams that honeycombed the Ozarks. As she dipped the bucket, a rustle sounded, branches parting. She froze, heart pounding.
"Who's there?" Silence.
Then a whisper faint as wind, "Eliza." She spun, water sloshing, nothing, but the fog was rising, thick and cloying, obscuring the trees. She hurried back, but halfway, the whisper came again, closer. Panic rose. The cabin lights flickered ahead, but the path seemed longer, twisting unnaturally. She dropped the bucket, running now, breath ragged. But the fog enveloped her, and the world faded. Jeremiah claimed he heard nothing, saw nothing. When she didn't return, he searched briefly, then waited till morning to alert neighbors. The search party found the bucket, the footprint, and nothing more. Thus began the mystery. Suspicions turned to Jeremiah, his alibi weak, his demeanor odd. But without evidence, he remained free, though shunned. The town buzzed with theories: murder, elopement, or something supernatural. As winter set in, the Ozarks grew harsher, snow blanketing the hills like a shroud. Lydia fell ill, her cough worsening, as if grieving her mother's absence. Jeremiah drank more, muttering of curses from his family's past. A great-grandfather who wronged a Cherokee shaman, dooming the bloodline. Sightings started small, a woman seen by the spring, her form vanishing when approached. Then, more, a cry in the night, echoing Eliza's voice. The mystery deepened, refusing to die. With the disappearance etched into the collective memory of Willow Creek, the story of Eliza Whitlock entered its darker phase. The initial shock gave way to a simmering tension, as if the very land absorbed her absence and exhaled it in eerie manifestations. Jeremiah, now a pariah, barricaded himself in the cabin. The once warm home now a tomb of silence, broken only by Lydia's frail coughs and his own haunted mutterings. Neighbors avoided the path to their door, fearing the curse that seemed to hang over the place like a pall. In the weeks following, search efforts waned, the men's enthusiasm dulled by fruitless days in the cold woods. But anomalies persisted. One searcher, Old Man Cyrus, swore he found a scrap of fabric snagged on a thorn, blue calico, matching Eliza's dress. Yet when he showed it to the group, it crumbled to dust in his hand, leaving only a chill wind. Whispers spread of witchcraft. The Ozarks were rife with tales of granny women who brewed potions and cast spells. Was Eliza ensnared by such magic, or perhaps practicing it herself? Jeremiah's behavior fueled the fire. He was seen digging in the yard at midnight, his lantern bobbing like a will-o'-the-wisp. When questioned, he claimed to be planting turnips, but the ground was frozen hard. Lydia, questioned by Martha, spoke of her father talking to Mama's shadow in the corner. The child grew paler, her dreams plagued by visions of her mother lost in fog, calling for help. Come spring 1913, the thaw revealed nothing. No body washed up in the river, no bones unearthed by animals. But the hauntings intensified. A traveler passing through reported a woman blocking the road, her eyes pleading, mouth moving soundlessly. When he approached, she dissolved into mist. The man fled, spreading the tale in the next town, where it grew legs. Jeremiah's isolation broke when Thomas confronted him. "What did you do to my sister?" he demanded, fist clenched. Jeremiah's response was a wild laugh, eyes glazed. The woods took her, like they take all who don't belong. A fight ensued, Thomas leaving with a bloody nose, vowing revenge. That summer, tragedy struck again. Lydia succumbed to her illness, her small body laid in the family plot beside her brother's. Jeremiah buried her alone, the town refusing to attend. Some said he wept, others claimed he smiled as if relieved. Alone now, he descended into madness, boarding windows, muttering of the watcher in the trees. Years passed, the Great War raging far away, but in the Ozarks, time moved slower. In 1917, a miner found a locket in a cave, Eliza's engraved with her initials. Inside, a lock of hair. But the cave was miles from the spring, inaccessible. How did it get there? The miner kept it, but soon fell ill, claiming visions of a woman accusing him of theft. He returned it to Jeremiah, who hurled it into the river. By 1920, Jeremiah was a ghost himself, rarely seen. The cabin fell into disrepair, vines claiming it. Then, one night, flames lit the sky. The cabin burned, Jeremiah inside. Official report accident. But neighbors saw no lightning, heard no cry. Some whispered suicide, others spectral vengeance. Post-Jeremiah, the hauntings evolved. Hikers in the 1930s reported cold spots near the spring, whispers naming betrayals. During WWI, soldiers on leave saw her interpreting as omen. In the 1950s, with roads improving, tourists encountered the Lady of the Ozarks, her story in local papers. Even modern times hold echoes. In 1980, a camper photographed a misty figure. Analysis showed anomalies. In 2005, a psychic visited, claiming Eliza's spirit sought justice, pointing to family secrets, a hidden affair, perhaps murder. The mystery endures because evidence tantalizes but never concludes. Was it Jeremiah's hand, body hidden in a mine shaft? Or folklore come alive, the howler luring her away? Or deeper, a curse from displaced Osage tribes, their spirits unrestful? Eliza's tale weaves through generations, a thread of unease in the Ozark tapestry. Her shadow lingers, a reminder that some mysteries claw back from the grave. To truly grasp the enigma of Eliza Whitlock, we must immerse ourselves in the historical and cultural milieu of the Missouri Ozarks in 1912, a region where reality and legend blurred like mist over a river. The Ozarks, a plateau spanning southern Missouri, northern Arkansas, and bits of Oklahoma and Kansas, were shaped by geology and human endeavor, karst topography. Caves, springs, sinkholes created a landscape ripe for mystery where people could vanish without trace, swallowed by the earth. In 1912, the area was transitioning. Railroads like the Kansas City Ozark and Southern connected isolated communities, bringing goods and ideas. Mining boomed, lead, zinc, iron, drawing immigrants and fueling economy, but at cost dangerous work environmental scars. Plans for hydroelectric dams, like Bagnell on the Osage River, hinted at progress, but rural life remained harsh, with families eking out existence on small farms. Culturally, the Ozarks were a melting pot of Scots, Irish, German, and native influences. The Osage and Cherokee had been displaced by treaties in the 1800s, leaving behind sacred sites and resentful spirits in folklore. Settlers brought bollards, superstitions, belief in signs, omens, witchcraft. Vance Randolph's Ozark Magic and Folklore documents this. Charms against evil tales of haints ghosts and power doctors, healing with herbs and spells. Legends abounded. The Ozark howler, a bear-like creature with a blood-curdling cry seen as a death portent. The Garo, a lizard beast lurking in caves. The Blue Man, a spectral figure haunting trails. Witchcraft tales featured witch balls and curses. Disappearances were common. The Springfield Three in 1992 echoed earlier cases, but pre-1912, many went unreported, lost in woods, mines, or rivers. The 1867 Brothers Well case involved murdered travelers dumped in a well. Family dynamics in 1912 were patriarchal. Women like Eliza bound by duty, domestic violence hidden. Curses tied to bloodlines were believed, perhaps linking to Eliza's Harlan roots. Hunting clubs and revivals provided social outlets, but isolation bred paranoia. Eliza's story blends these, disappearance amid folklore, perhaps amplified by cultural fears. This context lends unsettling authenticity. Was Eliza victim of human evil or supernatural? The Ozarks' blend of fact and myth makes her mystery enduring. Delving beyond the surface, the tale of Eliza Whitlock reveals profound symbolic and psychological layers, connecting to universal fears and human nature's darker facets. At its core, this is a story of erasure, the vanishing of a woman in a patriarchal society, her voice silenced, her fate debated but never resolved. Psychologically, it evokes the terror of the unknown, the fruity and uncanny where familiar turns strange. The home becomes a trap, the woods a manifestation of repressed desires or traumas. Symbolically, the fog represents ambiguity, obscuring truth, much like how societal norms blurred women's suffering in 1912. Eliza's disappearance mirrors cultural trauma, displacement of natives, exploitation of land, her spirit a metaphor for unrestful history demanding acknowledgement. Thematically, it taps into isolation's horror, the Ozarks' remoteness amplifying paranoia akin to Gothic tales like The Yellow Wallpaper, where confinement breeds madness. Jeremiah's descent suggests guilt's corrosive power, his mutterings a projection of inner demons. Universal fears abandonment, betrayal, the supernatural as explanation for inexplicable loss. In folklore, ghosts seek justice, reflecting human need for closure. Eliza's sightings embody collective guilt over ignored violence against women. Culturally, it connects to American frontier myths, self-reliance masking vulnerability, progress as in mines, rails clashing with ancient superstitions. Psychologically, it explores trauma's inheritance, curses as metaphors for generational abuse. Intellectually, it questions reality versus perception and are hauntings real or mass hysteria? In an ominous tone, Eliza's mystery warns that ignoring shadows invites them closer, a chilling reminder of history's lingering grasp. As our journey through the shadowed paths of the Missouri Ozarks draws to a close, the enigma of Eliza Whitlock lingers like the mist that claimed her, a spectral presence that defies resolution. We've traversed the narrative of her vanishing, the hauntings that followed, the historical tapestry that wove her fate, and the deeper currents of fear and meaning beneath. Yet no definitive answer emerges, only echoes, whispers, and the chilling certainty that some mysteries are eternal. What happened to Eliza? Was she slain by a jealous hand, her body consigned to the earth's hidden depths? Or did the woods, alive with ancient spirits, draw her into their embrace, transforming her into the very folklore she hummed in ballads? Her husband perished in flames, her daughter in sickness, her bloodline faded, but her shadow endures, cited even now by those who venture too deep. This tale haunts because it mirrors our own vulnerabilities. The fragility of life in isolation, the terror of the unseen, the refusal of the past to stay buried. In the Ozarks, where hills guard secrets and rivers carry laments, Eliza's story is a caution. Look behind you, for the shadow may be your own. Dear listeners, as the night deepens, remember some mysteries refuse to die. They wait, patient, eternal. Sleep well if you can. Until next time on The Shadow Behind You.